Lost my mind, now I'm feeling so fine, cause I finally realized I don't need you. I'm feeling sublime, and you're watching me shine, and you realize it's time I don't need you. Now
Hey, this is Brooke,
Hey all, this is Imani.
and welcome to another episode of Resources in the Valley.
Where you get your tools to make the most out of every day.
Hey, Imani, how are you?
I'm doing really well. I am trying to be a person who thinks better of rain because I don't like it, but it's going to just be around, so I have to embrace it. That's what's on my mind mostly lately, but I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good. Just rolling with the punches. We have like a couple more weeks left in this year, and just doing everything that I need to do to get myself prepared for the new year and my clients prepared for the new year. So it's been fun. It's been rocky. It's been busy, but it's been fun. So I'm very grateful. I'm actually very excited for 2023. So bring it on. Well, in last episode, our topic was the performance. In that episode, we discussed different ways that people tend to slip into performance when they're trying to please others, when they are trying to put on a certain image for someone, or they're trying to hide their true feelings. And we just talked about the performance because we wanted to address that because those things go into your mental health. This is our mental health series. And we just kind of wanted to dig in to that. Our call to action last week was identify one way that you can always be you. Do you want to expand on that, Imani?
Absolutely. I think that in this day and age, like we often discuss, it's so easy to think that maybe the way that somebody else handles themselves or the way that somebody else operates in our world might be a better way to do things than the way that we do them. But I think just remembering that who you are, that is your selling point, whether that's in a business that you like to start or in your just day-to-day life, that is what you want to be the reason why you have your friends. That's what you want to be the reason why your family loves you or whoever else cares about you, because who you are is the only version of yourself that you can keep going over time. So that's definitely really important to remember and strive to be authentic every day.
Yes, that is very important. One way that I always make sure that I try to bring my true self to the table is, as you said, just being authentic, being unique. This week I had a new client. I had a meeting with a new client, someone I never met, someone that was referred to me. And, I could have tried to slip into character, into, what fits into their mold. But honestly, just by me being my true self and bringing my true character to the table and the things that are important to me in my business and the way that I function was fine. I didn't have to be like, oh yeah, let's do this and let's do that. So the person, thought I was cool or whatever. Like that wasn't the case. We're here to do business. This is how I conduct my business. This is how I make sure that my clients, get the best service, and I try to make sure that I give the best service. So, and that was enough for me to win, the client that I needed to win over. So, and honestly, just having been in business for like 20 years now, that is the way that I get the best clients is by being my true self. When I try to put on like a front or a show to be somebody else, it usually doesn't work, and it usually ends up a client that either I might not want or like a headache or something that I don't want to deal with.
Absolutely. And something else that I love to say is when you're not 100% honest with who and how you are as it relates to somebody else, you take away their choice as to whether or not they really want to have anything to do with you. So I think that that's really crucial to remember as well. If I present myself as someone, very serious and I don't really joke all that much or what have you, and that's the type of person that you would like to do business with, then you might say yes to starting that business relationship. And then next thing you know, I'm silly or I've seen business owners, like when they have a client, they'll post clients' mistakes, or they'll post like a client's credit situation, before I help this person had this going on. And like that's how they do business. They try to get new clients by saying, well, this is how this client was so messed up before I helped them. And it's like, if you're the type of person that wants your financial life to be private, and the person presents themselves professionally, next thing you know, your life is splattered on Instagram. Like they were not honest about how they conduct business, and you would have liked to know that. You might be someone who doesn't care if people share basically their version of your testimonial, but you might be somebody who does. So it's really important in, business relationships and with friendships and everything else to be yourself. Give people the choice. Do I want to move in this direction with you, or do I not?
And that's so true because I've seen people like use that proof thing, but like you said, first of all, has your client signed a disclosure and allows you to disclose their information? And there's ways to accredit yourself and of things that you've done or of things that you've accomplished without, putting somebody's business out like that. So, I just I understand, like I I understand that more, more than we can even begin to understand, because it it's like you do want to be able to prove yourself, but do you have to go that far to prove yourself? And then also, like you said, that might not be the client. That client might have not signed up for that. So this week our topic is patriarchs and matriarchs. We have a few more weeks in our mental health series, and this week we want to discuss patriarchs and matriarchs in your family. Are you the patriarch or matriarch in your family? Do you enjoy it? Are you the eldest or the most responsible? Is that how you became became in that position? Are you the traditionalist? Is this position an honor or is it a burden? Or is it an honor and a burden? And we just want to discuss different things because the patriarchs and matriarchs in our family take on a lot. They bring the family together. They tend to host things, or if they don't host it, they kind of tend to organize it and bring, try to reach out to everyone and get everyone together, whether they want to get together or not. And the patriarchs and matriarchs tend to take on a lot. Now, a lot of times our patriarchs and our matriarchs in our family are the eldest person in the family. But there's also a point when someone that is responsible tends to step in. Not just the eldest person, because the eldest person might not be able to do what they were able to do years ago, as they get older and wiser. So we just wanted to discuss the patriarchs and the matriarchs, the responsibilities and things of that nature that they take on every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just chime in to share what it's like in my or what it was like in my family. I think for most people, their matriarchs would probably be their great grandmother or their grandmother. And it's interesting because it's like, is it my mom's side of the family or dad's side of the family? So I think that you tend to have people who kind of make up that role on, both sides of the family. And it was interesting for me growing up because it was my grandmother on my mom's side. And like Brooke was saying, sometimes it depends on your personality too. It's interesting. Like, you could be a great grandmother that doesn't like hosting, so then when it comes to holidays, you don't want nobody in your house, and like, that's just that. So, and I know people like that are like, I'll bring a dish, but you're not messing up my couches and my things with your kids running around. So, but I will say, it was my grandma growing up, but then she began losing her memory. And like, for me, I lost my grandmother and my mother. And so even though I have like other extended family, sometimes like when I go down the family tree and it's just like nobody above me, I'm like, am I supposed to be a matriarch? Would you be open to hosting and kind of having some of those transitional conversations long before you need them? Because you look at the weight of certain positions that have been lost, and it seems insurmountable to try to go and fill that. Like, I'm never gonna be them, but like, whether that's recipe book, whether that's stories, whether that's just like encouragement, there are all sorts of things that you can pass along. But definitely just having those candid conversations and talking with people about who would be willing to step up to the plate, really crucial.
I'm happy that you brought up transition. I'm transitioning into that position. Because I don't think those conversations are had in most families. I believe that any families that do have those conversations are probably few and in between. And usually somebody is stepping into this position as from either a loss, or, someone's unable to do it anymore, or, whatever the case may be. I even found like myself kind of taking on things with my family. And I don't even know how we got there. Like, I really don't know how we got there. I don't know how that ended up kind of being like Brooke is going to be the one. And it's something that I've grown to live with now, but even like as I started reflecting over the last couple of years, the last 10 or so years, that was another reason why I was like ready to get out of New Jersey. Is because the burden of being the matriarch, or the burden of being the responsible person, and that's another thing. We're not talking about matriarchs and patriarchs in reference to age. We're talking about matriarchs and patriarchs in reference to responsibility. And, the person that everybody can go to their house, or the person that we're going to eat dinner at their house, or the person that gets everybody together, or the person that always makes sure we have a birthday cake for somebody in the family, or whatever it is that might be, or the person that's running to the hospital to make sure somebody's okay. So like, it is, and I mean, I do believe that it's an honor. But I do also believe that it's a burden as well. And I believe that it's not a negative burden, but it could be a heavy burden for the person that is in charge, or the person that has to take on this responsibility, especially if they weren't ready to be placed in that position.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that. And I think overall people just tend to think that they have more time, have more time than they really do. And it's it's uncomfortable, but it's just so necessary. Um, Another thing that I mean, this comes up in lots of movies, but the idea of the matriarch or patriarch kind of being the glue for families, it's like it's great that you have somebody to do that, but I think at some point you have to take personal responsibility and start gluing and reconciling and having conflict resolution skills yourself. Like, please go to therapy. Please read whatever you need to read. Please have whatever hard conversations you need to have, because that's an immense responsibility in and of itself to be the reason that people talk to each other.
I'm happy you brought up the glue, because often the person that is the glue in the family, they have everybody running to them. They have their children running to them, their nieces and nephews running to them, this one running to them, sisters, brothers, aunties, uncles, everybody's running to them. And who can they run to? And so often, they don't have that. They don't have that outlet. They don't have that person that they can lean on or depend on, to when they need to release what they have going on their mind, on their hearts. And it's important. Like, it's super important for people to be able to depend on others. And if you don't have that, then what do? You know what I mean? Like, everybody needs to go to therapy. Everybody needs to be able to kind of work out their things. And everybody needs to be able to kind of step up and do what it is that needs to be done to keep the family together. That's a phenomenal woman of the week. It's Serena Williams. And everyone knows Serena Williams as being the one of the two black sisters that kind of came in and made a lot of they made a lot of differences in tennis. They were, I believe they might have been the first professional black tennis players, or women tennis players. We had some men, but women tennis players that were honored and that were played, that were revered internationally, revered in our country and things like that. The reason why I chose Serena versus Venus is because of their story. So their father was trying to get Venus into playing nationally and things like that. Serena is the youngest out of all of her siblings, which includes Venus, and but Serena wanted to play too, and she was good, but they didn't realize that she was ready, or they didn't know that she was ready yet. And they both have done well, and they've both been in the forefront of the tennis world for the past 20 years, maybe 30 years. However, Serena is the one who kind of, her professional career kind of catapulted more than Venus. And she was the younger sibling. She wasn't the oldest. And sometimes, it is the younger person, that might come and be the responsible one, or might come and show things different. And that's why I decided to choose Serena Williams as our phenomenal woman of this week. What do you remember about Serena, Imani?
Yeah, I think she's absolutely an incredible player. I mean, who doesn't? She's definitely known as the greatest of all times. I really admire who she is as a person and an example in so many different ways. I think in her focusing on her career and becoming a mom, after 20s, so to speak, is really, really great to maintain her athletic drive, and I just have really loved to see that we can have it all. Sometimes we think we have to trade one for the other. We do not. I think one of my favorite interviews of hers was over the summer at the U.S. Open. The reporter asked her are you surprised at yourself with your level? Basically, like, are you surprised you won? And Serena looks at her and it's like, she just smiles, and the reporter's like, no, I know, like everyone, that was my thought. Why would you ask her? Of course she's not surprised. She said, I'm Serena.
Definitely agree. One of the things I like that you said was her confidence. And her confidence and her dominating for years. They started in the late 90s. They probably got a little bit more popular in the early 2000s. And then they've won Olympic medals. They've won national medals. They've won the Wimbledon. They've won several different things. They have been honored, and they have worked hard to get to where they are. I believe Serena did retire this year finally, to do other things. They have a lot of endorsements, and I just, and then they're also from Cali. Like, they weren't from the best, the creme de la creme. They had a father that believed in them, once again, that worked through, to get them to, to a platform. And then they continue the work, or she continued the work to uphold that platform. And, I definitely believe that that Serena is somebody that we want to acknowledge this week, and also her sister as well. I mean, they are both two amazing tennis players. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up Phenomenal Woman, Imani?
Not anything other than thank you, Serena. Thank you, Venus, for being who you are unapologetically. We didn't dive into it, but just the natural hair and just wearing whatever it is that y'all want to wear for your hair and for your beauty, and makeup versus makeup. I mean, there's been countless, discussions and articles about African American women and how we should present ourselves. And
so we just want to thank you, Serena and Venus Williams, for being Phenomenal Woman of this week. And we're going to continue our topic. We're going to go into the effects of patriarchs and matriarchs, and how do you deal with it? Like, how do you deal with it? Have you been the matriarch or the patriarch? Do you have close relationship with the matriarch or the patriarch of your family? And how can we help those with these types of responsibilities?
I'd say, in my family, with so much loss that we faced, one of the things that I've noticed has just been kind of the just dissipation of that role. I do know with other families that I know, younger generations tend to collectively make up the position and that responsibility, where it's like, look, maybe we'll just alternate, So let's say I had, my mom and had a bunch of siblings. It might be at a different aunt and uncle's house every year or something to like lessen that burden. I think in my family, on both sides of the family, it's more so like the head of your household will represent that position for its own household. So I think that there's some semblance of the position that still exists, but it's more so the head of each household individually. So there's not that necessarily that combination. But I think that one of the things I've been learning and really appreciating is that you never know what God will do with your desires and how He'll give them back to you maybe a different way. So, like, for example, I'm not going to get my grandmother back or my mother back on this earth. They can't come back, But my family has grown, doubled, tripled, quadrupled, since, not from my womb, praise God. But
Well, I have kind of taken on the matriarch position. My mother is still here, but she's just not able to do as much. Um, and I still like I can't I don't know how we even got into this. Like I'm not even sure how the transition, like how we ended up transitioning into this. Um, and then the losses. We did have a few losses in the family, so now she doesn't have her sisters the way she does. She only has one left. So then that's another thing. Like, now that she's trying to like kind of hold the family together because her sisters aren't there. And trying to keep the lines of communication open like with cousins and things of that nature. Um and how can we help? I mean, there was something years ago that you told me that you said I call family on Wednesdays or something like that, like it was a day of the week. And I just like I thought about it. I was like, yo, that's such a good thing to do to kind of keep the lines of communication open. We must keep the lines of communication open with our family, no matter what. Unless it's like an abusive situation, then I don't see too much reason why we're not, speaking to family. Um, and I just believe that because it's not even about us per se, it's about our children, it's about our legacy, it's about the people that are going to come after us. It's about, like you said, those multi generational conversations. You can talk to your aunt about things you might not be able to talk to your mom about, or you might be able to bounce something off your aunt, the way you might not be able to bounce it off your mother, or you might be able to talk to grandma about it and she not be as judgmental, as your mom is, or your father is, or your grandfather, but these relationships matter. Another thing that I've implemented in my family is I always tell like older, people in the family, whether it's brother, mother, uncles, grandfather, grandparents, whoever. I tell them that you all have to develop the relationships with your children, with my children. And I do the same thing with my nieces and my nephews. Like I try to speak to the kids, and when I speak to the kids, I say, "Hey, how you doing?" Try to get them to open up to me. I try to listen to them, as long as they want to talk, even if they're not talking about something that makes too much sense. But I'm giving them the platform to know that, I'm somebody that you can depend on in the event that that day comes and, the people in your intermediate family aren't there. I just believe that like families, we need to stick together more. We need to support each other more. We don't need to worry about the why, who, or how, but we just need to be there for support. And people don't understand, how important it is. It's very important for people to have the support of their family. It's very important for women to have support from the men in their family. It's very important for men to be loved and cherished by the women in their family so that they can feel confident. So it's like things go so many different ways, and there's so many different effects that I believe that we don't think about it. Everybody's worried about their day to day, and as we should be. But patriarchs, matriarchs, and your family is very important because that's how you got here. Those are the people that might end up, even possibly keeping your children, if you weren't around. So, we need to make sure that those things are in place, not only for our care, but for our children's care, our grandchildren's care, and, just the family in a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And last thing I wanted to say as well is that we have so many different types of families in our world. I think in the 50s they coined the term nuclear family, which was your typical like two-parent household with 2.5 children, and it's like family is more than I think more than 50% of families, at least in America, are not that way. You know, you have multi-generational families, you have step families, you have single-parent families, you have all these different types of families, adoptive families, families raised by the grandparents. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, there are even families where the parent is a sibling, you know, and for whatever reason they have to step in, raise the younger sibling as their own child, or whatever the case is. So there are just so many types of families, and I think that's why when you talk about responsibilities, it's just so important to be the type of people, to try to be the type of adults that can be flexible and don't have this mentality of, well, that's their job, or like, didn't so and so call you type thing. It's like, what can you do? What can you do? And then also when it comes to like holidays or settling family disputes, being the point person for events and things like that, it's just like, these are things that, depending on your family type, you might not discuss. You just kind of fall in line with whatever's going on around you, and that becomes your thing. You know, like that just becomes your life, your lifestyle. But I just think the more intentional we can be, the better life we can create. And the last thing I wanted to say is that I've heard this said in church before, like, a Christian shouldn't be without when they're in a church body, or even like the body as a whole, because somebody somewhere has what you need. I think the same thing is true for families. So, you know, if you have a teenager who's going to college and they need help writing their entrance essays to enter into college, like, it's great if their parents can help them, or whoever's closer nearby, as far as mileage, you know, whoever lives nearby. But like, if you need help getting into college, you should have family members that can help you with that. It doesn't all have to fall on the head of the household there. If you're looking for a job, do people own businesses? Do people know friends who work in finance, or who work in retail, or who work wherever? You know, I've had so many jobs, and quite a few of them were because my auntie knew somebody, or my uncle knew somebody, or my first job was at a doctor's office. Don't know how I got in there, but you know, my uncle was a doctor, so they're like, yeah, come and work. So it's just like, be a resource, be an asset, be open and available to whoever, whether you're the matriarch, patriarch, whether you want to take on that role or not. It should be that anyone in your family can access you, not in a way where you're used and run down, tired, and broken, but in a way where you're not hoarding your resources, your wisdom, your connections, and as a result, everybody gets to win. You know, everybody gets to be where they want to be. And quite frankly, just gonna say it, but we see this a lot in other cultures, where for some reason the African American dynamic, we don't know. Every man, woman for herself. But like in Indian culture and in Mexican culture and just other cultures, and it's not to say that's the same for every African American household, obviously, but there's like this expectation, like, you take care of your grandmother and your great grandparents and your cousins, or you're almost close enough to be your siblings. There's just this, like, you share the wealth, you know. And I think it's awesome to see whole families buy businesses together, and they all work there, you know. So, and they send the kids off to college. The children don't have any loans. Why? Because everybody's saying, you know what, I can't do everything, but I can do my part. But collectively, we can change our neighborhood. We can change the world.
Yeah, I mean, I am grateful for where you went, because that was exactly where I wanted to go. You know, in our community, the African American community, unfortunately, we don't see as much cooperative economics. Kujikaglia. We don't see that. Unfortunately, we do not see the cooperative economics piece in our community. We There are different cultures that they plan out. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be this. You're going to be a store owner. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. And then that way we can get everything in our family or within our family cycle or circle. And unfortunately, in our community, I don't believe we don't plan out as much. Another thing that we see are in the Spanish community, they can live with each other. They will live with each other. Spanish and Indian communities, they will live with each other. Whole families will live with each other, and they will live with each other. They will save. They will help their friends save. Help the family save, and then now it's time for your family to move out, and then now it's time for this family to move out. Because we've worked together and we've sacrificed and we've saved and we've planned and we've helped each other make that step into the next area. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't see that in our community, in the African American community enough. And I would love for us to see that more. So, in this episode, we want to challenge you. We want to challenge you to, if you're not the patriarch or matriarch, support your patriarch or matriarch in your family. Support them by opening the lines of communication and keeping them open. Support them by not, by helping them get people together. Support them by helping them put things together for the family that are going to help with the legacy of your family in the future. Help them by keeping everybody together. Help them by not causing rift. Like, there are so many different ways that you can help. And I just believe that we need to be more cooperative in our families. And that's everything. It's economically, financially, spiritually, mentally, and of course physically. Anything else you want to say before we bring this episode to a close, Imani?
No, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there. I love what you said about how you could be there for others, not just financially, but also physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every single member of the family is needed and necessary. So hopefully we can each feel that significance within ourselves so we can offer it, when asked. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we challenge you all to support the matriarchs and patriarchs in your family this week and coming weeks, especially during this holiday time, and we're spending time with our families. Well, we want to wish all of you beautiful angels a blessed and productive week.
Remember, you will get through this valley too.
Have a blessed week.
Bye.